Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Friday, January the 19th. We have JOAN STACK with us today from the State Historical Society.
Hi there.
Good to have you here, JOAN.
Yeah, it's nice to see you.
You've got, you're dealing with courthouses today.
That's right. Yes, we have an exhibit that's going up at the State Historical Society. It will be up Tuesday, the 23rd, and we're really excited. It's a collaboration with the Missouri Alliance for Conservation, and it's based on a book that was produced a while back by David Weiser from the Alliance, and it is a documentation of all the courthouses in Missouri.
Yeah.
Courthouses for 114 counties.
So each county in our state has a courthouse.
That's right.
However, here's a bit of trivia for you. There are, I think, 2 counties that have 2 courthouses.
That's right.
Now, how did that happen?
Well, I think it had to do with the logistics of where, which city was the county seat versus which city had the most legal cases before them. So the 2 counties are Cape Girardeau County. The county seat is in Jackson, but the bigger city on the river was Cape Girardeau. So they ended up building a courthouse in Cape Girardeau and in Jackson. And the same may be true of Marion County. The county seat is in Palmyra, but on the river is Hannibal. And they, too, had a lot of cases having to do with the river traffic, and so they needed a courthouse in Hannibal as well.
They had to have 2 courthouses. I would have thought it would be either St. Louis and Kansas City.
Yeah.
The bigger communities would think you'd have 2 courthouses, but they're smaller.
Yes.
So now, 116 courthouses?
Yes.
Is that right? The architect is beautiful, and you've got some historical pictures of what they looked like then what it looks like today.
Yeah, so I want to say we don't have every image from this book on display. There we have 36 courthouses on display, but we have very extensive labels with images of the earlier courthouses that the present courthouses replace. And I brought an example to show you of the Boone County Courthouse here in Columbia.
So if you're watching this online or if you're watching it on television, you can see the picture, but here, hold it up just a little bit to this camera over here, I think.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now,
so the Boone County Courthouse is right here in Columbia, the county seat, and the columns from the earlier courthouse still survive, and you've probably seen them if you've visited the Boone County Courthouse. They have lanterns on top of them now, and this is an image of the columns. But those were the columns for a massive courthouse that was built in 1847 that preceded the current building.
Yeah.
And that courthouse was very typical of the period with a temple front. It almost looks like a Greek temple in the front and then a cupola on top of it. And also, one of the things that strikes me is the current courthouse is so far back from the street.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
And the old courthouse was right there. It was the columns were right there in front of you as you were walking down the sidewalk, which would have been a very striking thing to experience. And in a way, you don't experience the grandeur of the courthouse in the same way.
But now you have the lawn.
That's right.
You have the green patches.
And that's a big part of the photograph because, as you see, this is the photograph from the exhibit. It shows the whole space. And, of course, the space becomes an important public space. A lot of memorials are on the site of courthouses. And we really want people to start thinking about how the architecture and the space, the courthouse is often the biggest, most impressive building in town, how it reflects the community values.
Now, when was the current Boone County Courthouse built?
It was built in the early 20th century. So this was built also in a classical style, but in a style that was associated with the Beaux-Arts movement, which was a little bit different. Ellis Library is in that style. It's often, it looks less like a classical temple and more like a grandiose building. A lot of times it's very massive columns, very symmetrical. This one has a beautiful dome on top of it. Domes were perhaps a little more common in that Beaux-Arts period.
Well, it just looks very majestic also.
Yes, that's right.
Majestic.
Yeah. But they both are taking their language from the Greeks and the Romans, which adds a certain gravitas to the building. And the reference to classical Greece, of course, especially in the early period, you see a lot of American architecture that borrows from ancient Greece, in part because they associated ancient Greece as the cradle of democracy. That architecture is suitable for this new democratic country.
Now, on the show that you're having, it's running, it opens the 23rd?
Yes.
January 23rd, and it runs how long?
Well, we're going to be running this through the spring and into the summer, probably.
And you've got how many pictures? 36 pictures
There's 36
altogether?
pictures, and we, again, are trying to associate the courthouses with history. So I have another one here. This is the Lafayette County Courthouse, which was built in 1847. And this is a great example of that classical style, that neoclassical style that makes direct reference to ancient Greece or ancient Rome. And this courthouse was based upon the courthouse, or not courthouse, the Capitol building that Thomas Jefferson designed in Virginia. And I have an image of that below, which itself was based on a classical building, the Maison Carrée in Nîmes, which was a Roman building. But the architects clearly are making reference to these grandiose buildings from the ancient period. And again, it makes the building seem very important. It kind of signals that this is a building where something important is going on. And another thing that's important about these courthouses is they sometimes, on their fabric, on the building itself, there's things about the history of the town that are recorded there.
Yeah, like
and
the Battle of Lexington.
In this case, this building survived the Battle of Lexington, a Civil War battle from 1862, and a cannonball actually still is lodged in one of the columns.
Really?
And I have a little picture of that here, and we have a picture in the exhibit.
So if you go to that's Lafayette County Courthouse.
Yes, in Lexington, Missouri.
You will still, when you look at it, there's a cannonball?
There's a cannonball.
Lodged in it.
Lodged in the column. And there's a couple of buildings that survived the Civil War. And so we've tried to incorporate that into the didactic material, the labels that accompany each one of these images, so that people can see that the architecture, the built environment that we surround ourselves with, it tells us something about who we are.
Right.
And if you're looking at older architecture, it tells us something about our history.
Okay, we're about out of time, but of all the pictures that you have on display, what would you say is the most unusual courthouse?
Oh gosh, that's hard to say.
That's not a fair question, is it?
That's hard to say. I mean, I'm trying to think. The Lafayette County Courthouse with the
cannonball in it. I think
probably...
that probably would rank up towards the top.
Yes.
All right. So Joan, it'll open on January the 23rd and run through
the spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming
thank
back.
you so much.
Always a pleasure having you here. The woman is a walking encyclopedia. She really is. You just sit down and she starts talking, and you learn a lot if you just listen. Monday, the Legislative Forum and diet and nutrition are topics. See you then. Bye-bye.